There's days where I think about going back to just running heavy equipment because I'm like, man, I miss being able to leave work at work. I miss being able to just like not be responsible for anybody but myself. Dude, I mean, seriously, there's a lot of freedom, and I don't know, there's a lot of good of having a job like that. I'm a little bit envious, honestly.
I used to be an iron worker.
Yeah.
I was a connector. I was up top walking on steel beams all day.
Oh, hell yeah.
That was fun. That's like awesome, manly man. Shit. That's like
hell
like,
yeah.
That's like looking down at everybody like, you peasants.
Plebes.
I could drop this bolt from this height and it will go through your hard hat. So fuck with me.
Yeah. Dude. So I worked on drilling rigs for a while too. Well, drilling in workover rigs in the oil and gas industry. And I remember Derek came, dropped a screwdriver off the tubing board. Well, it was not the tubing board on the drilling rig, but the board, I think is all they call it. And that's like 90 feet up. Maybe it's not quite 90, 60 feet. Dude, luckily it hit the handle on one of the floor hands and just like, dude, he was a big dude and just laid him out. Nuts. We should start the show officially now.
Yeah,
officially.
Yeah. So, starting off with a little conversation like we always do. Welcome back to World's Strongest Opinions, episode 33. Back with Nicolai. Welcome back.
Yeah,
glad to have you here.
I think I got a hunch where this one's gonna go.
Yeah. What are your predictions?
Something with judging, something with some standards, something with.
Wow.
It was shortly. There was about a 30-second time span from when I said what I said on social media and John sliding in my DMs.
I know. I was like, it's perfect. I'm always there.
Dude, you look like you're about to drop some bars with that crisp ass hairline, dog.
I know, it actually does. Like, for some reason, my hair looks much like it's.
You look like you're about to rap about some white privilege or something. I don't know, but
yeah, he's not bald enough for that.
I feel like I look like Sean King kind of, dude, and it kind of bothers me.
I've got a good story about one time that I actually shaved my head bald, and it was right before I went to France, and I remember, and it was like a week after 9/11, and I looked it was a bad look. It was a bad look on me. I was not as tan as I am now. It's a super white bald head. And I remember getting into Charles de Gaulle airport, and there's this woman with her kids, and she's like, they're talking, and then she looks up and she sees me, and her eyes get huge, and she just gets down and like cold pulls all her kids in close and just like watches me out of like total fear that I don't know, I'm like the Unabomber.
Yeah, y'all are due right now. I mean, with his background, the fresh ass mic, the fancy headphones, like he looks like he's about to shoot a music video, and you look like you're about to steal someone's mom.
You got a van hiding in your rattlesnake infested garage, John?
Oh yeah. So I was telling Darren that we had a rat problem. So the pest control people, we put out glue traps, some other traps, and they actually caught a baby rattlesnake in the garage.
So how do you have a rat problem if you have a rattlesnake problem?
I know. We also have 5 cats.
Well, that's probably why he had a rattlesnake problem, because he knew where there was a free meal.
That's true. I was like, the cats failed their quarterly review. I was like, how did you let this happen? Though the night we actually heard them in the walls, all the cats were literally sprinting all around the house trying to like find an entry point in the walls. And I was like, do not scratch into the walls right now. I was like, hopefully it'll leave. I was like, I cannot deal with this, because you'd hear it like would just like scramble, and then the other cats would like try to run up the wall and like hit where it was. I was like... So I'm glad that got rid of, and hopefully we don't have an actual rattlesnake problem, because it was one of those Diamondback ones. It's like, it's been a whole thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I did actually shave my head completely bald and kept like a goatee, and Andy was not a fan. She was like, you go for that American History X look, and it's the worst.
Oh, it's such a great movie, though.
I know, though. Also,
Dude,
apparently,
Edward
Edward
Norton
Norton
is
took.
the man.
Yeah, he actually took extra creatine for that movie, which is funny
That
when you
put-
look at it.
Dude, that put the term curb stomping on the map.
Yeah,
I know. I was
No
like,
one knew what that was before.
right.
Yeah.
It's a
And then when
brutal
he told
scene,
homeboy to
man.
bite the curb, ooh,
Mm.
like that was a scene where you're like,
yeah,
Brutal. That was brutal.
yeah. Like some scenes in movies, you can like just feel it when you see it. You're like, oh no, that's like.
and I love me a good violent movie, but like that wasn't. It's not. It wasn't even the violence. It was the way he looked at him. Like, bravo to those actors. Like the whole like, man, the tension. Like you were just like, I feel this in like this is making my butthole tingle right now. Like I feel this.
Yeah, you should have got the internal coccyx adjustment after all.
Oh man.
Oh man. Hey, let's get back to I want to talk about the comments on I think I missed it, but I'm pretty sure I know what it was about. What happened with judging? Was it World's Strongest Man?
Oh, that was just like the icing on the cake. And that what was, I'm kind of glad it happened because it really showed like there was a build up. And for some reason, it always happens in the circus dumbbell. Like, I don't know why. It's not that hard. But there was some back and forth with a guy that allegedly took my record. 80-kilo guy, super strong dude. He pressed a log world record for the 80 kilo that day, which was a beautiful rep. I mean, held the lockout, like no issue. No one can take that from him. But like when you have an entire I didn't even see the video. Someone sent it to me, and I was like, whatever. And then it got posted about, and then I clapped back. This is kind of where like I've always kind of just stayed in my athlete lane, and like just kind of kept my head in the sand. And then this past OSG, there were some frustrations. And I watched it affect a few different podiums. And then that, like, seeing what happened to me at OSG on the circus dumbbell, I saw it happen to Panda on her circus dumbbell. I'm pretty sure it was her, where the judge made her, after she moved on, got a good rep on the next dumbbell, go back and reset the dumbbell on the crash pad. Like, that's an equipment issue. That's not an athlete issue. Especially if you have athletes guiding it down onto that pad, we're hitting a target that's this big. Like, it's in control. Now, they were shit pads at the bottom. I talked to Lynn about it, and he was totally in agreement. They should have just had the square mats and let us drop it onto the square mats with those globe dumbbells. But I saw it happen to her, and I got the same judge. And he stopped me mid-clean on the last dumbbell, stopped me mid-clean, and made me go back and run down my dumbbell and put it back on the crash pad. And then it was just, the calls were all like, there was just no consistency. And the fact that you have something like that, it's going to affect performance. You should never stop. If you've already given the down command, and I was reaching up and catching with both hands to bring it down. At no point was I like, really, like, I was making sure, because that was a good event for me. I still got second on it, even with the 10 seconds it took me to. Leroy had a stud run. He was the previous dumbbell world record holder, so that was an event where it's going to be me or him. Like, it is what it is. And I got that penalty, and not penalty, but that delay. And then I saw it happening to other athletes. And then, there was just false starts on things not being enforced. There were people literally there was someone that did not complete the farmers. It was reviewed on tape. And there was just like people getting involved. Like, it was just, there's a problem with, I think the scheduling with it all got crammed together because of the hurricane. And those judges now had 2 days to go through the same amount of events. So I think that was an issue. It's tiring. Judging is tiring. You have to be focused. Yeah. And be like, some of the calls, it's like they didn't know what a good rep was in some circumstances. And I'm probably going to get a lot of shit for this. I'm going to hurt some feelings, but
World's Strongest Opinions.
Yeah, I went out and judged. Bobby Thompson was the head judge. He runs the tight ship, and he let me take point on circus dumbbell. And we had a handful of calls get contested. Some got turned over, some stood. But the athletes were heard. The footage was reviewed. And I gave a slide penalty to Matt McKeegan. And in a carry event of a yoke, with the front of the yoke being a 45, I was looking at that front of that yoke. I'm sorry, I was looking where the yoke met the ground, not where the front of the yoke actually crossed the finish line. And that's what I gave the slide penalty off of. And unbeknownst to me, he went and contested it. I had another event to judge. I didn't find out until it was overturned. And Bobby said it was good. Tyler said it was good. I was like, all right, then it's good. Like it my feelings aren't hurt. Like, we're gonna make mistakes. But out of like 200 some events, we had, five contests. We're doing pretty fucking good. And then the fact that an athlete can contest something and it get overturned, whether it does or doesn't get overturned, the fact that we can sit there and explain deliberately why it did or didn't, it reinstills faith in the judge. If the judge messes up, they're going to hear you out and be human about it. Like the whole judge's God thing has to go. I mean,
Agreed.
I think powerlifting has like a board for reviewing world records.
IPF has their jury, the jury system.
I think that's brilliant because the dude who allegedly took my record, I mean, at this point, like, I'm not even gonna say he took my record. I mean, strong press, like, it was like a pound heavier. It wasn't even, but
That's
80
John's.
kilo
That's
guy.
John's biggest pet peeve.
Yeah, that's
Yeah, it's
that's no
stupid to
good.
break a world record by a pound. Throw some fucking balls and throw on 5 to 10 pounds.
Yeah.
Make it worth people's time to watch. No one cares about nickel and diamond shit or a penny, taking a penny. Like, there needs to be like a kilo rule, like 1.5 kilos or 1 kilo or something. But the 1 pound shit, like, because I think mine was like 252.6, so it was like 4 ounces. 4 ounces on a dumbbell that had an 1.5 inch diameter handle. I was on a 2 inch handle. 64 kilo women circus dumbbell was done on a 2 inch or bigger handle. You have women doing a bigger dumbbell than you are.
This is the problem, though, I think, with I mean, there's so many issues with standards and strongman, and this is, I mean, we've always said, and we talked about it extensively, that, we don't want to like gatekeep or pigeonhole everybody into like every event just for standard competition
100%.
into standardization. But when it comes to world records, there has to be a higher standard. And we talked about it recently with who did we have on last that we talked about the stones?
Tyler, because Tyler mentioned his stones.
Yeah, I know Tyler, but
Tyler
I know
Young.
there's too many Tylers. Tyler Young.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, if you're going to do a record on anything, I mean, but this is where it gets complicated too. Like, we have to have like a charter of standards to start with, so that we can ensure that everybody understands where to go from here, because you can always set a record on a harder and harder implement, right? Because we know with stones, diameter makes a big difference.
Mm-hmm.
We know that handle diameter makes a difference. We know, I mean, even the diameter of the log, or the diameter of a log, or diameter of a dumbbell.
You just need a minimum.
There's all kinds of things that change the difficulty of it. And you're right. Anytime that a record is set on an easier implement, to me, is like invalid immediately.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like, where do you draw the line and say, like, we should probably stick with one standard? We talked excessively about Atlas stones in the past with Luke Davis. And, maybe there's a weight range where it goes up in diameter, right? But I mean, like with Kienbe's axle record, he did it on a non-rotating axle, which is inherently much, much more difficult. The next record should be set on a non-rotating axle. But yeah, I mean, I agree a lot. I mean, we've had the standard discussion here many, many, many times, and we keep pushing for it. And I think it's more and more people are talking about it. And I think that is a good route that the sport is taking, because people are starting to realize how important some standards are to the validity of world records.
Yeah.
I'm not sure I agree on the poundage though, because Olympics, you can beat a world record with a half a kilo, right? I mean,
Yeah.
and I mean that. Yeah,
I'm
I
just-
mean,
I'm not
yeah, we
talking
would
about
like to. You always want to see it more, but more is more, right?
I'm not saying like we need to have a poundage, but like for the people watching, like I know if I go, I mean that could be a difference in a scale. A
Yeah,
But
pound
that's what
could
because
easily
the
be
margin
difference
of error,
in-
yeah,
standardization though. You should be calibrating your scale.
it's true.
Yeah, but who's
Right?
out there? Like who's out there enforcing that? Like if you
Nobody.
put 5 pounds on it and you weigh the implement, like we
That's-
weighed my dumbbell empty because I know what I weighed it as, and it was like 3/4 or half a pound. Like it was the difference in maybe a pound. Like mine said 107.6. We got to, it was still Clash at the time. It was 106.7 or something.
Right.
It was, but it didn't matter because I still loaded it the same, right?
Right. But I think you're right. Nobody is enforcing it. That's the challenge, that we face as a sport to get any standards in place. Is there was no umbrella governing body over the sport, and so that's kind of where I've kind of thought some sort of charter that everybody, as many people as we can get, sign this charter and agree that these are the standards. But then the athletes and the promoters and the judges and everybody have to work together to ensure that standard continues, right? Which is a huge challenge.
Like there was a response to, I believe Tommy Lavelle. Tommy Lavelle had some very good back and forth on this with the whole website he's starting and everything.
So he does HoustonWeightlist.org. Is that him?
Yeah.
Weightlist.org.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know if I was supposed to put that out yet, so I'm sorry, Tommy.
Oh, okay.
We'll just censor this part.
So I'm good. But if I wasn't, just in case to cover my ass, and sorry, Tommy. That was a genuine fuck up.
We'll censor this part and just say that Nick started talking about his internal toxic adjustment.
Like the fact that there was a back and forth of the dude that was claiming to break my world record, and it was along the lines of saying, I'll probably mess this up. I don't have my phone. So I'd have to look at the picture, but it was along the lines of like, why are we worried about, something about world records? It's all for fun anyway. Like, who gives a shit? I'm more about world titles. Well, cool. But like, you say that when you are doing something in a competitive environment. So like, that is like just kind of being passive. Like, either you don't know what a good lockout is, or it was a shit rep and you're trying to downplay it. That's the only two outcomes from the back and forth that happened. So either way, like if you're fighting it tooth and nail, because it was sent to me by at least a dozen people, I didn't go out and find it and was like, this is shit. Like, it was sent to me by a very large number of people. I've never had a circus dumbbell since or before sent that to me like that by that many people. And if it was a good rep, there wouldn't be anything to say. People wouldn't be sending it to me. Like it wouldn't even be a conversation. If I had seen it on my time, I'd be like, fuck you, dude, congratulations. Like,
yeah.
And his argument is I would just be saying congratulations if someone breaks it. Well, no, because if you say your record stands and someone comes along with a worse rep and breaks it, what are you going to be like? Oh, good job, dude.
Yeah.
No.
I
know what it took to get to that point in my circus dumbbell. So I don't want someone coming along and like in the video, before he even makes eye contact, you see the hands start to fall. Like he hadn't even settled. And as soon as it went, he had a lot of press power. It went up. But it went up, and as soon as it settled, it started coming forward. It never stopped.
Did the judge give him the down, though? Did the judge give him the rep? And I'm not saying that's okay.
Gave the rep before it was even like settling. Like his feet had just barely, I think, set by the time the down went commands.
And that's kind of like the unfortunate aspect of strongman is that, it's hard to expect an athlete because it's not the athlete's fault that he got it down.
Not at all.
Right. and it's hard to expect any athlete. Although I think it would be a noble pursuit to say, like, I don't accept this because I'm not happy with it. But nobody can possibly expect any athletes to do that legitimately. But yeah, I mean, the judging has got to improve, because that's where it all boils down to, right? Is the judging. The judge should never
100%.
like I watched a rep today. I don't know what competition it was. It was overseas, and it was a log, and it kind of gets back to the same thing. Like, the guy wasn't even locked out yet, and the judge already gave him a down command. And that is the kind of judging that we can. It's not. This is what I hated about World's Strongest Man, when everybody said that it was at least it was consistent. is like, no, it was consistently shitty, right? Consistently shitty is not a positive.
There was a handful of guys actually doing good reps.
Yeah. I think most of the reps under the 140 kilogram
after
dumbbell
270
were decent,
pounds, most of them were shit.
Most of them were shit, but
in my
consistency,
opinion, I think I'm gonna say this first. Mitchell Hooper was extremely dominant. Dude did not have a weak link in the fucking chain.
Absolutely,
he was gonna win World's Strongest Man, I think, regardless of the shitty judging on the circus dumbbell. But his 270 dumbbell was not a good rep. And that was on Magnus. And it was just atrocious. Evan Singleton's rep was even worse.
That was on the 140 though. That was the 308.
Yeah, Evan's a strong presser too.
He's super strong.
But he didn't even get locked out. And it was his feet were together. He was leaning
he was walking.
There was nothing
down
command worthy about it at any point.
And that's the lack of consistency, is because and again, this is nothing against the athletes. I want to make that really clear. It's nothing against the athletes. We know they're strong, right? But the reality is that Evan's 308 was given a down command in a much worse position than Mitchell's.
Mm-hmm.
Right? They both were not good reps.
Yes.
In my eyes.
At least Mitchell had his arm locked. It was out here.
Yeah.
It was locked.
Yeah.
Because that's the main thing. It's like we've talked about. If something's a good rep, you should be able to hold it for a few seconds. At least when I did powerlifting, for one, I hate the rack command with bench and stuff, but that's what they were saying. They're like, if you have your arms fully locked out on bench, it shouldn't be an issue if your judge is going to make you wait a few seconds.
I'm not even asking for a few seconds. A one count. 1,000 down.
But I think it's hard.
Control at the top. Just to stop motion.
I think John's point, though, is that when it's stacked over your heels, right?
Yes.
When that it's here, it's not going anywhere. Yeah, you'd only need one count, but the point I think John's making is that a good judge knows when it's locked out and that athlete can hold that for 2 or 3 seconds. Mm-hmm. Do they need to give him 2 or 3 seconds? No. But there's an obvious point when a dumbbell is locked out and it's stacked over your heels, right? Your upright, feet together, eyes contact with the
deadlift,
judge.
Knees locked, hips through,
elbow, shoulders back.
Yeah.
I think so. Here's the one thing before we get too far into it. I think there should be a rule with the kilos, though. If it's under 200 kilos, the record has to be broken by 2 kilos. If it's over 400 kilos, it needs to be 5 kilos. Or Emmanuel Pascari, when we were talking about the Zercher world record, it's 260. And I was like, 265, you have it in the bag if you really focus. And he was like, I'm not going to do 5 kilos. He's got 275. Yeah. So he's got
275.
He said he won't do it unless he beats it by 10 kilos. So that's the Pascari rule. Shout out Emmanuel for being no, 5 kilos is a small number.
And nothing against Yerji, man.
Yeah.
Dude is strong as man. And that was a great rep.
It's true. Yeah. I think that I'm glad to see that people are doing that and everything. I think people should be doing them in flats a bit more because it helps you, but that's a whole other thing.
I started doing them in KB style in my platform shoes, and I kind of like it.
It's interesting. I don't know. I feel like, because I like the flats because you treat it much more like you would be hitching a deadlift than it's a traditional squat. If you watch Atlas Power Shrug, his hips almost never break parallel because that's a weaker position. Most people, your deadlift's more than your squat. So treat it like a deadlift. Yeah. Somewhat. That's a side tangent. But the weights, that makes it harder. People doing these tiny little jumps, you can contest it. And I think if there was some sort of standards of like, I like your idea of the minimum handles or like these minimum things of like, if it's a men's weight, stones, 20-inch minimum, like
21.
handle 21.
21.
Okay.
I'm all about
That's
21
ideal.
for men.
Yeah. But it's that idea with the handles too, because a 1.5-inch handle is not anything.
But I mean, there's a point too
so
with world records where is it really worthwhile to track some things? Like, you know, I know World Strongman tries to track every event of every variation imaginable as a world record. It's like, you know what? Most of them don't matter, right? 18-inch deadlift. Sorry to the people that have 18-inch world records. Like, it doesn't fucking matter, right? Because a deadlift is more significant regular from the floor. Farmers handles, there's so much variation in farmers implements.
I think the 18-inch in the deadlift variation is more from a showmanship standpoint. Imagine when you say to a crowd they're going for a world record on this lift, the crowd's going to get way more behind that athlete anyway. So I think there's a time and place for it when it comes to something like the variations. But the main lifts, like a stone load, an axle, when have you ever had to worry about someone doing anything other than 2-inch axle?
Never.
Like never. Like why is that?
Other than on occasion you'll get the schedule 40 pipe that's 1.9 inches.
Yeah. But like there's never really an issue. But for some reason, it's hard to wrap people's head around. Like a 2-inch diameter handle, like a Coke can, I learned on a 3-inch dumbbell handle. That's what I learned to do dumbbell with.
Yeah, same.
So like everything after that was easy. I hit a 200+ pound dumbbell, first ever, 12-inch diameter, about a 3 handle, give or take, and it was a bitch. And it had like this much room, so like you couldn't get it was out of your hand in the rack position. It didn't actually hit your palm until you started driving.
Right, and then it wants to roll out, and it just puts a tremendous amount of pressure on your thumb.
When you're using an 1/2 handle, like that's 20 pounds on a dumbbell,
easily,
like, easy,
if not more.
Yeah, so like when you have an 80-kilo guy hitting 90-kilo numbers. Well, when you see his fingers almost touching, that tells me everything I need to know. Like, okay, it was easier. So, like, and if you're going to deny that, then you're just full of shit. Like, that's if you're denying it to save face. Like, that's what that is. It's
that's
because
that asterisk.
Everyone knows it's easier. Yeah. Just like a 19-inch stone is easier than a 21.
That's that asterisk that John always talks about.
Yeah.
Like, next to a top, like, you don't want an asterisk next to your world records. Nobody should want that.
And that's the main thing. It's like, I think all of this is like, it's for the athletes. Like, no one wants to have to debate what they're doing. And it is like,
I want to argue someone take my world record. I want to see someone break it and be like, fuck yeah, dude. And then move on. Like, I'm not, that world record isn't my identity. That world record was, we had the time. I hit I'm not attached to it. Like, emotionally. Like, we got done OSG coming off a world title win. And we had the time, and my coach was like, hey, deload, play with some things in the gym that you want to play with that are fun, that you haven't touched in a while. Just go have fun for 2 weeks. I was like, cool. I picked up a dumbbell, and I hit a 220 dumbbell just fucking around. And I sent the video, he was like, oh. And at the time, it was like 230 something. So I was like 16 or 17 pounds off of the world record. Just not touching one in like 2 years. So I was like, he's like, you want to get a world record? I was like, why not? And then, I actually missed it the first time because I was putting too much. It was leaving my hand at the top. And it literally almost hit my head like 3 times. And then once I figured some things out, I knew if I'm in a 10, I need to go into this to an 8, calm down a little bit, and let my jerk do the work and not drive as much. Put as much ass behind it. And it settled down and worked itself out, and it was like clockwork on game day. So I'm not attached to this dumbbell world record. Like, it's going to be broken, but it's not going to be broken by a shit rep.
Amen to that, man. I mean, yeah, dude, I'm with you 100%.
And
reps have got to be better. World records. I mean, there's so many things that need to just be better about world records. And I'm a big stickler even on the weight, like verifying the weight on camera. Just because you say weighed X number of pounds doesn't make it so. Because I mean, how many times have we been to a competition where the promoters just like rounds up what the empty implement weighs, right?
I mean, a 600-pound tire. That bitch is like 8 to 9.
Iron Mine axles are a good example. They're 33 pounds. They're all pretty standard 33 pounds. Everybody rounds them up to 35, right? You know, I can't tell you how many times I've had yokes that I know weighed like 173, but they call them 185 in competition. It's like, you know, fine, it's competition, but if it's happening there, how do we know that's not happening in world records? Unless you're weighing everything on a calibrated scale, which is easy to calibrate because you put a calibrated plate on it to show any error, right? And account for it on the weight of the implement. Like everybody should be doing that, in my opinion, because we live in a very, very big world, right? People compete all around the world. And we can't all be there. The best people cannot always be at every one of these record-breaking attempts. And to uphold the integrity of the record, there should be some very solid documentation, which is not hard to do, to back up everything that is stated. Because otherwise,
people have no problem.
Like you said, it could be scale
contest entry.
Yeah,
could be totally
people
scale
do it to enter a contest on the regular in large numbers, but a world record, no one wants to do it.
Dude, I know online qualifiers, you have to weigh everything on camera, but on a fucking world record, nope, we can't be bothered with that.
And all right, this is where this is where so homeboy when he, I forget his name, when he responded to me and he said, "You have one of the bigger platforms in the weight class strongman." Yes, I'm aware. And I hate to see you using it like this. Using it like what? Holding you fucking accountable? For setting a standard? It's not like I did a shit rep and called yours out. Like, Max made me wait. Maxime Boudreau was my judge.
Right.
Shout out Canada.
And,
shout out Canada.
Yeah, like, to guilt trip, to say I shouldn't use my platform, or you hate to see me using my platform like this, or whatever it is. Like, what is that? That's when the switch flipped. I was like, all right, like, I didn't make this comment about you. I made it about the judge. Mm-hmm. And you took it personal because it was your world record. You said so. And then you say you hate to see I'm a well-liked and well-respected person in the sport, and you hate to see me saying something like this. Like, I'm respected because I have a fucking standard. And I do well. I've never placed out of top 5 at Worlds. My worst placing is 5th. I have 4 shows, 4 back consecutive appearances. I have a 4th, I have a 5th, I have a 1st, and I have a 2nd. Like, I'm respected because I show up and I'm consistent. I don't do shit reps. I don't get gimme calls because I don't allow the judge to give me a gimme call. And you know what? If I do get a gimme call in a contest, I'll probably react the same way Mitch Hooper does. Like, well, he gave me down command. Like, I'm not going to be like, it wasn't my, I wasn't proud of it, but he gave me down command. So in a situation where everyone's getting shit reps and you see it, I'd have done the same shit. Like, points are points. Like, he's giving shit reps everywhere. Like, I'm going to take them. But you also can't knock Mitch's performance across all the other events because he was bulletproof. Dude, wreck shop. Like, there's no dispute. And there's no dispute on my world record. There's no dispute on my performance as an athlete. Like, it. So to sit there and say, you hate to see me use my platform like this, and just, it's my platform. I can say what I want within the realms of not being a piece of shit. And all I did was say that, hey, that's not the standard. You took it personal. I referenced the judge, and he said he's a well-respected person and judge in the community over there in the UK. Well, Magnus Vermag is a legend in strongman, one of the greatest to do it. But he's a shit judge.
He's a shitty judge.
So, yeah, like
I'm glad you said that because I was gonna say it.
Yeah, I was like, the thing is, people like to pretend that Magnus is the same Magnus in 2017. I was like, 2023's Magnus is not the same judge as the one.
No, like,
I don't know. I mean,
it's
but
like
that's like
he's just like, you should be happy to have me here.
Yeah, which I mean, of like, I don't know.
Nah,
you get like $6,000.
Strongman has a tendency to like go.
I hate to even mention the show because it was so fucking cringy. the Ragnarok games. Like, you paid to have Magnus out, right, to be a judge. He's a shit judge, and if you were actually into strongman, you would know that. And then you're sending out invites to register and pay to compete. Like, I got a DM inviting me to come compete at the Ragnarok games, but it was an invite to register. But the only division
I think they just
paid,
spammed.
can you guess what it
I think
was?
they just spammed everybody, anybody and everybody. Because I got multiple email or like DMs from the guy, and I just ignored them all. I've heard people that which is like novices and amateurs getting invites to the Ragnarok games. It was just spam to everybody. And
well,
I
you
think
had
that's
your
where
open divisions, and then you had your pro division, which was only heavyweights. And I was like, how much is the prize money? Well, you can sign up for open. I was like, or you can sign up for pro division. I was like, what's that? It's like there's no weight category. It's just pro. I was like, okay, yeah, let me go compete for money against Travis Wortmeyer at 198 pounds, 200 pounds. Like, it was just everything. It's what things like OSG are getting away from, what things like PSL are getting away from. Like, that's the old logic. And the reason why we need to have these conversations is we're calling those out. And you can't tell me you didn't have enough money because you hired some fucking Viking singer dude to come sing a concert at a strongman contest instead of paying athletes.
It's true. Because I'm pretty sure his appearance fee is like $25,000 for the day or something.
Huh?
So
really?
Yeah, it's
Jesus.
yeah. I mean, because for one, at least
so a bit, but I mean, where did I don't know a lot about it. So I shied away from it specifically because I was aware of the spamming campaign to get athletes there,
Yes.
which just to me immediately was a turnoff. But where did the guy get all the money to put on the show? Like, because I mean, to me, if he raised sponsors and was able to raise that kind of money, that's impressive. The guy's got some sort of, I mean, either he's a salesman extraordinaire.
Definitely a salesman.
Right?
I mean, also heard.
And that's good, though.
Wrong.
That's a good thing for the sport, though, in my opinion.
Why do I have tweezers?
I know, I was about to say, I was like...
You need to pick your eyebrows?
ADHD is a hell of a drug.
Eyebrows or nose hair. That's what I thought you might be going for.
I heard this, and I'm going to preface this with, I could be completely wrong, and it could be completely untrue. But, like, I heard that the dude that was putting it on got busted for, like, stolen valor or some shit, like, a while ago.
Stolen
And that's, that's a big no-no. But, like, seeing how grimy the campaign was to get athletes to sign up, like you're only paying heavies for what recognition. You're not paying any of the weight class guys. And all the heavies you paid, you got guys with bigger footprints in the middleweight division and the lightweight division than most of those guys had. So, like, your marketing's all fucked up. And I was asking these questions, like, how are you marketing? Who are you reaching out to? Like, I know what questions to ask, especially with like a creator and a content director brain. Like, and I saw how all the graphics were being done. Like, this shit is whack. Like, I'm never gonna.
Yeah, the graphics were a little weird.
The Marvel stuff, for one, I didn't understand how Marvel didn't, like, Disney will copyright strike you for using Marvel graphics. Like, I don't. For one, you need to have your own graphics thing because, for one, Ragnarok's is just universal, like, concept. So, like, actually have real Viking stuff. And also, the main thing that's weird about the marketing, to anyone who's doing a show, when you post something about an athlete, tag the athlete. If you're reposting someone else's content, actually, like, credit that person. And also, if you're going to say you invited Jamal Browner, don't have a picture of him that's this big and Larry Wheels that's this big in the same picture. It's like, that's not the same athlete. Why did you have Larry Wheels twice as big? Like, there are these things of, like, simple things, but it is in a world that's pay to play. Like, if you have the money, you can just play around, apparently, which is, like, the frustrating part, namely because if these individuals collaborated with people who have good content direction, you would have things going on. And it's like, it's one of those small things of, like, little tiny branding things you can do of, like, when we started this show, I called it The Strongest Opinions. And Darren was like, let's not have the Facebook situation. Let's call it World's Strongest Opinions. And he like changed the logo. We made it better. And it's these little things of like, just consult people and stuff. Because if I had started the podcast, called it The Strongest Opinions, I guarantee you we wouldn't be sitting here like talking about
this branding's great.
Yeah. And it's like these little things of like paying attention to detail, because at the end of the day, shows need to be stopped. People need to stop treating shows like they're a one-time cash grab, because where the money's at is setting up something that's an institution that continues. You want repeat customers, but a lot of people really, they just do a show to like, do a show.
The problem with strongman in the United States specifically is that it's set up to make revenue off the athletes.
Yeah.
Right. So there is no future.
Strongman Corp. Strongman Corp is really good at making money off the athletes.
Yeah. And look, I gotta shout out my buddy James Deffenbaugh, who puts a lot of effort into Strongman Corp, and I respect the hell out of him. But Strongman Corp has a bad history, in my opinion, and but I think things are changing for the better.
I hope they do, because they're a big organization, and there's so much potential for them to do like really good fucking things for the sport. And I know James designed the Viking press at OSG, I think.
Yeah, I think James helps Lynn quite
and that was the best Viking press rig I've ever touched.
Dude, James is smart as shit, man. He's one of the smartest guys I've ever known in my entire life.
Yeah, I called Lynn when I was figuring out mine, like, how do I set this thing up? How do I calculate leverage? And he immediately called James. And I heard James talking in the background. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to keep winging it, Lynn.
Yeah. James is a smart cat, man. No doubt about it. But yeah, I mean, I've argued this for a long, long time, that if Strongman wants to really grow, like I hated that whole, when USS came about, they talked about growing the sport. And their concept of growing the sport was more athletes, right? More, warm bodies, because that grew their revenue, right? Sure, from their perspective, that was growth. That was a good business probably decision for them, because they kind of unlocked the code of how to make money in the sport. But the reality is that a real future for the sport where there's payback to the athletes, and there's value for the athletes, and value for the sponsors, is by growing an audience. That's true growth, right? Because you can't get sponsorship money into a sport that has no viewership. It's never going to happen.
Yeah.
I don't care how hard you try. I don't care what format you use. If you can't attract the audience, you're not going to attract the sponsors and the money.
100%. And that's where I really really push the athletes. Like, it's like, hey, this is what we got to do. If we want to get airtime, like, we have to put on a show.
Yeah.
Like, you have to step into that role knowing that you have obligations. Like, what I did with the 91 kilo division when it was still Clash last year was I sat down and I gathered stuff from the athletes, got put in the group chat, and was like, hey, send me all 9x16, vertical format videos, pictures, whatever, of competition. If you don't have any competition, training footage is okay. And the ladies crushed it. And it was outside of the ESPN Backbone one on Clash on the Coast. The 91 kilo division was the best performing. The newest division in Clash was the best performing live stream on ADL. And all I did was I scheduled 2 girls each day of the week, and then gave them post times. So all we did was market it and kept steady flow. So we posted it and they posted it. So there's direct kickback. So you have 3 different platforms every single day getting ADL in their face, so people knew where to watch it. So moving forward, that's why we did it for Clash on the Coast. And it's a lot of work and a lot of steps. What we're doing with Pro Strongman League are to take the steps to really have our own video. But it costs money.
Sure,
you can't get a good videographer for free. You got to pay your media. You got to pay your production. And to become something that people are going to want, you have to have production. There's no way around it. And my expertise isn't even in editing. Like, I can edit at a low level, make it good enough for like reels. But like when we do things, where I shine's in direction, and I have the creative brain. I can basically get the plan, provide it to production, tell them what to shoot, where to shoot, and let them do their thing. And then they come back with the rough. I organize it, kick it back to them, X, Y, and Z. This is how I want it. And then it starts to really get traction. Then the vision starts coming alive. Then they start seeing what my brain was imagining. So like, I have the creative chaos, but production will and will always be the engine to having an audience, because they are how it gets presented. You don't, if production's not existent, like, you're gonna have to stick to like 1080p and 720p cell phone videos. Like, it just that's the nature of the beast. And that's why we're doing that the way we're doing that with PSO. And we really want to be able to have good production for these athletes, to highlight those little moments where you see an athlete explode after a good event. People eat that shit up because they see that's emotion, that's energy, that's leftover residual of weeks and months of training going into that moment.
Into 5 minutes. Months and months of training going into 5 separate minutes.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Yeah. And I think that's important to mention, that like the dimensions of like reels that fill up the phone, it's nice. And also, if you're going to put out a lift, everything at Domino's, they told us if you don't greet someone in 9 seconds when they come through the door, that taints their opinion, because people on average need 9 seconds to be impressed. If your deadlift setup takes more than the 15-second limit for stories, don't like just trim that. Yeah, like trim your videos. Like, just show us you getting a big breath and then do the lift. Fast forward or something. But I think people don't always know how to like market themselves. But for events and stuff, like, people need that, because at the end of the day, it's a click-based economy. People need to see things constantly, because if you only shout out us, we only post like once a week, it does slow your growth down. Like, we should be posting regularly and everything. It's just a lot of effort. But for events like that, we you want to kind of coordinate all these things. And like, I think part of, brief side note about the making money off the athletes, for these events, they stop needing to like let people have grip shirts, but they can only buy one brand of grip shirt from that company or from that like.
That's the one thing about Strongman Corp that drives me that shit crazy.
But USS Nationals too, you're only,
and they're not even always available. That's the real bad part about it. Is like, if you're gonna make me buy a specific brand of grip shirt, you better be available. Otherwise, you should not allow everybody to use them.
No grip shirts.
I don't wear grip shirts. I don't
like
look
them.
like a fucking fish.
Dude,
you
they're
don't like
so
the
hot.
Aquaman look?
They're so hot too. Like, how people wear those, like, all like in USS, they're always like, are grip shirts allowed under the competition shirt? And people actually wear it. Like, it doesn't help, obviously, but it's like you're sweating yourself out. You're dehydrating yourself. They're such a I don't like them. I agree.
I did though. For USS, if you do wear a grip shirt underneath, the smartest competitors I've seen, you can actually cut your comp shirt like a stringer, do a low cut thing, and then cut the sides. So actually the grip sticks for it. So that's
just like cut a bunch of slits.
It's under.
Yeah, because I've seen people do that. So it's literally a stringer, the little things over
just
the
cut your contest shirt like a crop top.
Just cut a big square out of it. Just cut the entire logo out. You're like, it's underneath.
But yeah, it is like, I think it's one of these things though. Part of it is because the customer base are the athletes and everything. It's still kind of this idea of, it's essentially run like community theater, where it's just your friends and family coming to watch you do improv and everything. Except at least with improv, it's free to do. Whereas this, you pay $150 and you have to buy a specific grip shirt and you have to do all this training for it.
It's like, run like comedy theater, you mean?
It's true. Comedy improv, where the rules are just made up and the points don't matter.
They just make it up as they go.
Yeah.
That's a good rep. That one's not.
It's true. And I think that's the main thing, is starting to call these things out. And I think it is good that people are doing
it's
that,
bullshit that you force that
Yeah.
a certain grip shirt's okay just because that's the one you sell. That's bullshit. Stop doing it. Like,
Yeah, I agree.
I haven't done Strongman Corp since I won, I think, in 2017. Because even then, I was kind of like, this was really expensive just to say I'm a national champion in a weight class no one cares about.
Dude.
So I didn't go back. And granted, it was the 20th anniversary and it was in Vegas. And that was part of why I went. I've never been to Vegas.
Oh, that would be fun.
Cool, but I don't.
Was it only the 20th anniversary? I thought they started in 90. Did they start in 97? I thought it was earlier than that.
I don't know.
Might have been 10 year. Yeah.
Well, no, they started in the 90s. So, well, I mean, NAS started in the 90s, right? North American Strongman. Yeah. Willie Wessel started it with Dion in the 90s, and then the whole divorce thing. She won it, and that's why USS exists now.
And the funny part was, this is even funnier, is when you won in the 200-pound division, you got an invite to the Arnold. In 2017, there was no 200-pound division at the Arnold.
Really?
I was competing as 231s. So if you won as a 200, you got invited to. So back then, I think Podium got invites to the Arnold. Now it's top 20%. So you've now created what was supposed to be an elite and earned contest. Just by that strategy alone goes, well, why did you have to raise the pool if it wasn't money focused? Because now you've created a contest that was elite and a very sought after contest for people to go and win and earn the pro card. Now you have a bunch of fillers. It takes longer. There's already fucking 200,000 people at this event already. You've just kind of ruined. It made me not want to go back to the Arnold. I was like, and then I recently found out it was 200-pound division, and I emailed Dion to see what the qualifications were. I was like, hey, is there any? I even asked. I was like, can I get an invite? Because I know you guys have invited people in the past. I'm gonna show up and I'm gonna be on Podium. What's the There's nothing left for me to qualify for. And then she was like, the problem is when we invite people that haven't won in the past, that haven't qualified, athletes got mad. I was like, well, was it athletes that they beat? Okay, be mad about making something more competitive. It's not like people get invited to Worlds. People
I don't like the whole invite thing though. I think people need to earn. People need to earn their place at the table, man.
Yes, and now it's pretty much that way. I think.
Well, it's not though. Still, it's not though because they invite. I mean, how many Americans, for instance? I mean, Tyler Cotton. Help me out here, John. I'm drawing up.
I mean, Wesley Claiborne.
Wesley Claiborne. Thank you.
There's a ton of people who are just
those two, specifically, have missed out for World Strongest Man inviting much weaker athletes.
Yeah,
weaker performing and fewer achievements.
What's that Irish guy won? What's Pa O'Dwyer won though? I just need an answer to this question. Why is he always invited to things?
He's won
personality, man.
He's the funniest Irishman.
he's funny. He's good on camera. That's really
that's true. That's really what you should do.
He's an off contest floor highlight reel.
Yeah,
we know they know he's not going to take a spot up in the finals or even probably come close, but he provides a lot of comedic value. That's what I say. He's figured out the entertainer part. Do I think with guys out there like Claiborne and other people, he deserves to be there? No, he's taking up a spot for sure. Mm-hmm. But there's a lot of politics involved with organizations like IDM or IGM, who's I believe the producer.
Yeah. It's a TV show. It's a TV show at the end of the day to them, right? Mm-hmm. And it's not. It's less of a sport and it's more of a TV show, and that's how they draw their audience is by entertaining people. And one of the things that stands out for me is my first time in competing at the SCL under the U105s was their producer. Actually, not their was it their producer or was it I think it was actually Marcel who told me. So he was more or less the MC. He told me, he said, being an athlete is great and all, but what brings the full package is being, like you said, entertaining in front of the camera.
Mm-hmm.
And those are, and they're all old school. They came from World's Strongest Man. They were all part of that before IFSA split off, and then they split from ISA or something like that, and SCL was created. So there was that big split where ISA and SCL was created from World's Strongest Man. So like that whole concept is very much alive there, and they do more or less the same thing that World's Strongest Man does, right? So I mean, there is a lot of value to that entertainment. The character that you bring is going to get you the invites because it attracts the audience that attracts the money, right? And that's how they survive as an organization.
That's true.
But it's unfortunate when you look at it from a sporting perspective that people are getting invites over people who are athletes, right?
Yeah.
There's characters getting invites over athletes.
Yes.
Yeah. And I think you can like, it's great seeing people starting to fuse the two of like Tyler Davis, shout out, amazing sponsored athlete, World's Strongest Opinions, and CJ Krause. Like they're hilarious to like have that like back and forth and like
their little
like,
banters
stir things up. Yeah, and I think people need to
like,
realize
it's a
like
win-win
you can have that
for at least the 90 kilo division, however that plays out. Because I would love to see wrecked by the Alabama Hammer in DJ's thing. Like,
yes.
Or vice versa, the Giant Slayer thing. Like, it's gonna be funny no matter what the outcome is.
It's Mickey Krause, I think is what it's turned into.
Yeah, Mickey Krause.
Mickey Krause. He's owned it, man. He's owned it. So I think
that's true. Like he's a great performer.
I think Tyler Davis needs to get Mickey Krause tattooed on his body somewhere if he loses.
but I think that's the important thing. Is like it's nice seeing athletes start to do that because I think a lot of people. And it's easy, like people, they're like, oh, I'm just going to be silent and quiet and then just come up and win.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, yeah, that might work. Like, yeah, you can do that. That is a route. But there are people who just like are really good performers and everything. Like you either have to be incredibly strong or a good performer. If you see what is like Jamal Browner is actually like his YouTube channel, pretty standard, kind of like a little bit boring, but his lifts are amazing and stuff. But you can't necessarily do that if you're not that level of athlete. Like you kind of
got to be a bit of both. I think you really have to be a bit of both. You have to be a great athlete and you have to be a great entertainer because again, I mean,
Andrew Clayton, a good example of that.
Yeah.
Oh, he's a great entertainer.
He'll draw eyes because you don't know
he
what
does
the
draw
fuck
eyes.
to say.
Agreed.
Like, you know, when he went on his rant with the stone in his lap, like it was great.
That was amazing.
I had no idea what he was talking about. I was just kind of like, I was standing.
It didn't matter.
Like waiting. I was like, I don't know what's happening, but he's just pointing and yelling. I was like, I'm along for this ride.
It doesn't matter, dude. He was like, he was just expending tons of oxygen and then did one more rep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For anybody that has done, any of the strongman events can probably relate to how like ridiculous that example of energy expenditure was. And then to complete one final rep just for the hell of it. It's insane to me.
That's an iconic moment. Just him yelling, 2 years you didn't invite me, and pointing at people, like just holding it with one hand and just like yelling, and then just kind of gets half a brace and just throws it over. You're like,
well, from what I understood after that, like I didn't know what he was talking about. All the people that he was talking about were no longer a part of it.
Right.
Yeah.
So all the athletes were kind of scratching their head, and I know what was going on. I was just like,
That's a good moment. Though.
Yeah, he means it. Yeah,
he means it. That's all that matters, man.
So that's the fusion of like that's.
I
what
was just
you
like,
really
I got front row seat to whatever's happening right now, and I'm just here riding the lightning.
Yeah, and I think people need to kind of own that of like give a performance of like Nico Chapralis on our show, like. When he was at the Ragnarok Games, gave one of the best, like, just opening speeches of just in Miami, just saying, fuck the Dolphins. Like, I'm here in Miami. He was like, the Dolphins suck. And I was like, oh my God. Like, that's what people need is a part of that, like the character, because a part of it, they have the right idea, because it's the audience that you want to bring. It's not just bringing in more athletes. You want people to actually want to watch your stuff. So for one, people need to make watchable content. They need to make watchable marketing materials, and like the recipe is actually not that hard if promoters are there to do it
it's
right.
the time. It's the time that's hard.
It's true.
That's
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's
Which is true.
It's the commitment. It's the commitment, right? Because I've always said too, like there are sponsors out there.
Mhm.
I mean, you look at the NFL. I mean, they're an extreme example, of course, but dude, they raise like $14 billion a year in sponsorship alone, right? So it's out there, right? People have to put in the time and the effort to go out and do the dirty work and put their face in front of people and do the selling. You know, you can't do that on email. It doesn't work because nobody you
Marketing
get
emails. No,
if a company gets an email like asking for sponsorship, it goes right into the trash can, right?
Well, it's not even that. The sponsors now have to see you have a display skill set when it comes like media, like social media. How are you displaying your other sponsors, right? So that's another one why production is so important for people trying to get sponsors, and why like even as like an athlete, you're not a camera guy, you need to learn at least bare minimum how to just clip stuff up on reels, like TikTok, whatever. Like it's like you need to have like, I don't have any sponsors. Well, okay, let's see, what are you doing here? Like let's watch. Like you post the same shit every time. Like it's not entertaining. There's nothing. Like I watch it because I know you personally, and like it's cool. Like, oh, it's PR. Fuck yeah, dude. But like from a marketing standpoint, there is nothing you're adding value wise.
Yeah, because there's a reason why stories have that 15-second time limit. Like you need to wow people right there. If like you can have the best thing in the world, but if you're going to show me a 15-minute walk up and it's this big on the screen with a bunch of black above it, like how many people are actually going to watch that? And I think a part of it is just like, it does take time though, and it takes energy. And I think a part of it, realizing the people who are at the top of like Tyler Davis, like Andrew Clayton, realizing that you need to market yourself to get up there and everything. It's the whole deal. Like your strength will speak for itself, but also you need to make like watchable content and everything.
There's incredibly, incredibly strong people with like less than 1,000 followers on social media.
Absolutely.
No, I see that all the time. And I think that's the main thing, is like to realize that, I mean, this show's now, we're not yet a year old and stuff, but like if you get stuff out there, enough people start to notice these things. And I think it's hard though, because it is like, it's awkward putting yourself out there for it and everything, but it's amazing to me to watch some of the craziest lifts I've seen on Instagram are by accounts who have the same amount of followers as we do. And I'm like, that's insane to me. Like you just, or the people who just post them as a series of videos, so it's not even popping up in the reel system. It's like, you have to actually put stuff out there.
Like you see the dude that's like deadlifting, like with like a 3-foot deficit.
Mark Rosenberg.
Oh yeah.
He's standing on a box with like plates, and he has to remove like a ceiling tile.
Oh yeah, Mark was on our show.
Yeah, Deadly Slip, man.
Mark?
Yeah, he's a friend of the show, man.
He was on the show.
Yeah, he's been on twice. He's so good.
No shit.
Yeah.
No, Mark.
We love Mark.
Right. Put a camera in the ceiling, so when he like popped up, you got to see him. Like I was like, that's fucking genius.
Yeah, and his marketing, the crazy. Do you want to hear crazy growth from him? Is at the beginning of 2021 or at the end of 2021, he had 75 Instagram followers. He has like over 40,000 or something now. And when we had him on the show, between the two episodes, he had just hit 10,000 followers on the first episode we had him on. And by the reunion one, just a few months later, he was like up past 20,000 and stuff. And it is that like, it's making funny content and stuff, because now at this point he's had, I think both him and Atlas Power Struggle are actually now sponsored by Bells of Steel, or they get free equipment from these people. And I'm like, that's just being an internet lifter and stuff. Like, I think
that's just being an idiot for other people's like
true.
laugh.
He's a hero. He's not an idiot.
Well, like I'm talking.
Well, I mean, like, some of the stuff that he does is borderline.
I'm using like idiot and like it's stupid. Like in practice, like it is useless. It is stupid.
It is
to be an idiot. but he's being an idiot strategically.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's the thing people don't realize is all of them are getting those cool old school plates now that have like the man lifting and like the pole goes through the center, so it's funny and everything. Like all those guys are getting free equipment and stuff now, and you have strongmen who have been competing for years and years not getting free equipment. It's like there is a way to do these things because people want to have their eyes in front of stuff. Like Bells of Steel, I was surprised when they sent Atlas Power Shrugged some like equipment to just tag in a thing. And I think there are ways to do that. Like there is growth because you realize we're a small sport and everything, but what is it? I forget. Joe actually was telling us that there's like 15,000 registered athletes or something.
No,
like
that
there
was
is
me.
a market for these things. You are
I
awesome.
actually legitimately did a market study on strongman to see how much money the average athlete spends every year to compete, and whether it was on travel, lodging, or if it was equipment, so on and so forth. So I actually put out a survey, and I did a lot of background work going through the archives of Strongman Corp and USS, and compiled some data and came to a rough estimate of about 15,000 active strongman athletes in the United States alone.
Yeah. That's a decent market base. And I think trying to like reach those people of like Mark is an incredible marketer, and like talking to him, he just does stuff and everything, but it's good lighting. It's always good video format, and it's entertaining. And I think people oftentimes don't realize those simple things. I remember my coach actually, when I was still being coached for strongman stuff, was like, he told me, he was like, get a light in front of you, get some nice background lighting, and like it will instantly improve show quality and stuff. Like it's crazy. Darren's upgraded his setup, and now like you notice it in how viewer retention rates and stuff. These little things matter, and I think
because I started like over like 50% of our episodes were just on my phone. But I was like unemployed for like the first.
That's true. That is
like
fair.
half or like 60% of our existence, and I had no. I mean, I probably could have, but it was just not the right time to spend money when you're unemployed.
I mean, I'm using an
I'm like, with these little things though, of like Mark is a genius marketer, and you have to have like those fun things of like these fun lights in the background. They're like $25 off Amazon. It's just
he'll tell you though that he doesn't do anything special. It just happened organically.
Oh yeah, no, he's like I just do stuff, and I'm like, for one, he's insanely strong with like the random stuff he does. I still like
very strong.
Yeah, because he's the one who did 550. If anyone breaks this, we need to do something about it. But he did 550 from the floor, and he's over 6 feet tall.
A Zercher
from the floor. And just like watching his back, I've never seen a rounded back more rounded than that.
Dude, he didn't deadlift it to his lap like most strongmen do. He did his prison Zercher, man, straight from the floor.
Get that man stone.
He does his also, he has a great one where he does a one-arm Zercher carry with an Atlas stone that he has his kettlebell handle attached, standing on two other Atlas stones. So it's like a 300-pound Atlas stone hanging on his elbow. Great content. Mark, if you're watching this, you're just the best.
That's like the dude going viral.
I hope you have good insurance, Mark.
He'd be like doing pull-ups with like a couch underneath of him.
Yeah. Like you got to make entertaining things, because I think like at the end of the day, do fun things. Also, if you're an athlete watching this, the first one to send us this, if you send us proof of you contesting your own down call, I'll Venmo you $100. Especially if you're in the top 3 for your event and you contest your own down event, $100 is waiting for whoever.
I don't want this world record. It did not meet my standards.
That
would be seriously. That I don't think there could be anything more noble and legendary to the sport for somebody to say like, I'm not happy with that. It didn't meet standard. And I'm not saying like it was a little off.
Nah, you got to be a savage about it.
Yeah,
you got to be savage about it. Be like, nah, that wasn't a good rep. Give me a different judge.
I think because the thing is,
that would be incredible.
I mean,
that's what it's going to take. Probably. I mean, honestly, the athletes have got to be part of raising the standard, right? And that's kind of goes back to, I believe, Emmanuel Pescari had his vlog and everything weighed I think Luke Davis has some footage of it. We can always ask Emmanuel too.
Mhm.
But I mean, that's what it's going to take. It's for the athletes to going in and saying, hey, I want my world record to be as legitimate as possible. These are the steps that I want to take to make sure that it's legitimate. You know, we're not asking for the world. You know, let's weigh it on a calibrated scale to prove that it is the weight that we say, and give me, you know, make sure that I'm locked out.
And it is like, it's going to take a part of like athletes acknowledging these things, because one interesting moment, because for one, I don't understand why circus dumbbells always such a weird call, but at the Rogue Invitational, watching Martins Licis, he goes up, hits it, hears the down call, and puts it back on his shoulder and like gives this weird questioning look to the judge. And then he was like, I guess, like, and just drops it. But like, athletes know when it wasn't a good rep.
Yeah.
And I think we have this thing where more and more people, as soon as they hear it, they're just like, whatever. And it's like, if it is a good thing, if a judge wanted to, you could hold it for more than a one.
Too many athletes, though, I see in videos are practicing.
Oh,
they're training to drop an implement right away. And I think it's a very bad practice, right? You're teaching yourself bad habits to not hold the weight in lockout.
Yeah. It's like if you only ever train deadlifts and you drop the deadlift at the top every time. Like for powerlifting, they're like, don't train like that, because you can mess up your form. And like, you want to train how.
Well, if you drop the bar in powerlifting, it's a no rep.
Yeah. And I think there is like,
why would you train
middle
that
ground? Yeah. I think a little bit of like one of these things when they were saying like, I saw a post, I think it was like, I forget, Josh Lancaster or someone had a post recently of saying like, when you train log, don't always train the easiest way to do things. Like, don't always just like push press and then like drop right away.
Wait,
like,
you mean I shouldn't train to like do a Poundstone style freaking hitch on the deadlift?
Also,
where I just like set it on my lap and take a tea break.
I've practiced that. I have it in the arsenal.
There is, what was it someone did last year's Battle Axe Showdown? There was a guy who did the axle deadlift, gets it past his knees, squats down and lets it roll to his hips, and then stood up with it. And they allowed it because it wasn't against the rules.
What about the guy that like slammed, like just like
he like
slammed the bar down and all that rebound, because he was like, he wasn't getting it on the first pull.
Scott
like, he was
Baker's
he was in a deadlock.
Yeah,
slams it down, gets the rep.
Yeah,
I mean,
the Baker
at the same time though, like strongman, I mean, I've said this for a long time too. Like, this is a little contrary to some of the standardization talk that I say, but strongman is for cheating. And I find it always like amazing how clever some people are with skirting the rules.
Yeah, because shout out Scott Baker with the Baker bounce. Like, that's one of one of the most shared deadlift videos.
It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
I'm totally on board with asking for forgiveness and not permission. If it's like not a rule and someone does that, I'm gonna be like, damn. I'm like, if it's something that hasn't been established or we haven't seen, like,
why didn't I think of that? That's what always comes to my head is like, why would I would never have thought to do that in a million years. Slam
I'm like, motherfucker.
I know. And people posted, they were like, is it okay to jerk a deadlift? I was like, when people, they were like, have you seen the deadlift jerk? I was like, wait, what are you talking about? They're like, yeah, this is how you jerk a deadlift. You get it to your knees, bounce it down, and then just
you slam that bitch down, dude. You slam it.
And then bounce back up. But yeah, Scott is a hilarious athlete. And it's these little moments of like you can be a showman and do fun things and stuff. So it is a little bit contrary, because we have two parts of this show, because people always make fun of it. They're like, World's Strongest Opinions is 95%. We need standards. We need a serious sport. And then 5% just the goofiest shit that you'll ever see. And it's like, yeah, you need to have that fun side of things, because that's what does help like promote things. But I think you need to understand when you're being goofy, and you need to understand when you're being serious. And I think a little bit of like, I mean, the same thing you see now of like, whenever people train their deadlifts and they just hitch every single rep. If you're doing a deadlift for reps, you shouldn't be hitching anything. Maybe the last one, if you overshot like your exertion, but like training, like, hitch, I trained figure eights. Yeah.
I hitched like my last two at OSG. But once that power starts to fade, like once I get it to the knees, like that's when people hitch differently. Like some people ramp.
Yeah.
Like I
Right.
crest my knees and literally shift my butt to it, and then I pop up. Like there's a strategic place to hitch, and there's ways you can do it so that you do save your back a little bit on certain reps. And if it's allowed, fucking hitch. Who cares? Like
True.
it's allowed in our sport. Like
Yeah.
we can't pull sumo, we can't bench sumo. That's what I call this shit. Like we're allowed to pick something up and put her over our head in most cases by any means necessary. On the one thing that needs to be set in stone is fucking lockouts.
Yeah,
It's true.
That's it.
That's it.
Everything
That's it.
else
I agree
can
with
still
that
be
100%.
strongman.
Yeah.
Just lock it the fuck out and
Have
earn it out.
control over it. Lock it out. Have control. Be stable. Make eye contact with the fucking judge.
Like the weird thing to
That's
me is like if you look at like the old strongman videos where they would like do log and just rest it on their head for a bit and then they would do a good lockout. People are like, you can't rest it on your head anymore, but you're allowed to just kind of like, this is a lockout. You're like, I'd much rather watch people rest a log on their head for a
Right.
bit than have a good lockout. Like instead
this
we have
is
this
a
weird
good
thing.
lockout today for the world record.
Just do the Ziz thing, just like, but it is like it will take like athletes doing it. So if anyone contests their down call, that would be hilarious to me. It's just to be like, nope.
Camby is a dear friend of mine. I love him to death. As a human, as an athlete, I have a lot of fun with Camby. But I was shocked at his circus dumbbell world record.
Yeah, we were too. We feel the same about Camby, and so like it's hard to talk about when you have that much respect for somebody, right? And you have that respect, you care about him, you don't want to hurt, you're not out to be malicious or anything. And that's why I think we say a lot of times, like it's important to remind everybody that, it's not about the athlete. It's not.
Yeah.
We're not
I can feel that way about his world record, but still feel the exact same way about Camby. Like, that doesn't make me look at Camby any less.
Right. Well, dude, I mean, it's obviously insanely freaking strong. There's no question about the fact that Camby, he was extraordinarily dominant in the U105s. I think given a little time, he's going to be a powerhouse in the opens. There's no question about his pressing power.
He's so wide right now.
Yeah, dude, he's thick as hell.
Have you seen him from no homo? Have you seen him from the back?
Yeah, he's a wide individual.
He is a very wide.
It's like he reminds me of like the back in the 80s when bodybuilders would wear those goofy big ass suits and you'd see him walking and just like super wide. I'd love to see him in one of those oversized 90s style suits. Like
like how he hits hard or something.
Like if he did that, Thickless Canby would be a reality.
Nicholas Canby.
Thickless Canby.
That needs to be reinforced more.
It's true. Thickless is such a good name. But it is like the thing where it is all about the judging though. It's over eager judges 90% of the time these days. Is it feels like judges are more afraid of like taking away someone's record than they are of just giving someone a rep. And it's like that's a bad that leaves a bad taste in everyone's mouth.
It's a bad standard
and everything. Yeah, because then it is this weird thing of like they'll be like, well,
because with World's Strongest Man, that was the whole like concept allegedly with why they started giving loose down commands was because the dumbbells were so big and unwieldy, right? Well, first of all, you should have freaking tested this shit. It's World's Strongest Man before the fucking show. Like that's amateur level bullshit, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But secondly, like. Too fucking bad. Like if they don't get, I'd rather see them miss than the shit that they let pass.
Yeah, but also it's that testing thing. I don't know how with the truck pull we don't do laser timing. So the truck was so light that you had people tying within 1/10 of a millisecond. Like that shouldn't be.
How are you
happening.
the pinnacle of the sport and you're not testing events before the day?
It is the controversial idea though. Some people they're like it's. At what point do we admit that World's Strongest Man and Magnus are not like the peak of the sport as far as judging and events and stuff? It's hard.
First, folks.
I'm like, it does have the title. I'll say it. Having World's Strongest in your title does help you a ton and everything. But at some point, you also want to have the world's strongest production.
Why did we have a judge sitting on his ass on an event where you had to carry down back and
fucking
forth?
Husafeld?
Oh,
why was there only one judge? That's the bigger question.
Because Pavlo got the down signal when I sent that to you, and you were like, well, I mean, they knew it's a 20-meter penalty if you don't touch the line. It's like you have the guy gives him the
that's
down
what
thing.
I was unsure of.
Yeah,
he was signaled. Here's what you have to understand: you have someone who is English is not their first language, an environment that's very loud.
Yeah,
and you give a down signal, whether it be from a distance or wherever it comes from, needs to be very clear. So at that point, okay, the athletes knew going into this, it's a 1-run penalty if you don't cross the line on the other end. But that changes if he got given the all good signal from whomever in the officials, then it's not solely on Pavlo.
Yeah,
because if he was told he was good, you can't see anything over Husafeld.
Yeah, because he got the down thing. If someone just does this motion to you,
so
that's
to
a
them
universal
slam him
comp
with
thing.
a penalty that would be for his own fault, and there was a factor of he was told he was good. You've got to find a fucking middle ground. Make it 5 meters, however long the turn is.
Yeah, and even
something
because
you can't.
Because at that point, yeah, like a slide penalty,
You got to hold your judge accountable, and that's the issue.
Yeah,
like that is. There was a my bag got stuck at 2021, the year I won. My last bag got stuck at the top. Time expired. It then fell back down to my side after time was up. So I went over. I was like, hey, did this count? And I had my camera guy with me he was shooting in 5K on like Netflix grade shit. And he had it he had it down to like the 100th of a second. And so I went over to Lynn. I was like, hey man, my bag fell back towards me after time expired. So as the time expired, my bag, if it got hung up on top, it was counted as good. So as it was,
you're talking about throwing base, right?
Yeah.
It was up there during the time. So for the duration of the event, my bag was on top of it. Time expired, then it fell. So my question was, is this good or is it not? And it was like, I'm like, can we check with the judge? Can we, so he goes to the judge and said it didn't hang up there long enough. It has to be like a half a second or more. I was like, they don't know I'm equipped to answer this question. They thought I'd be like, damn, okay, wasn't long enough. So I go back to camera. Patrick walks up. He goes, got you. It was like 0.75 of a second or something. Or it was like 2 seconds or something, but it exceeded what I was told for it to count. And then when I provided evidence, that's when the irritation came in. It's like, judge said it doesn't count. I'm sticking with the judge. It's like, that's not how you handle this situation. Just because your judge said so. I met the standards for what it was a good rep. And at that point, I was just trying to prove a point. It was no longer whether it was good or not. I didn't care anymore about getting the points at that point. You're affecting potential thousands of dollars in my pocket. So just because the judge said so is a bullshit reason. And I understand that you have overstimulation. You're the guy running the show. And everything that I talk about here and I say about Lynn is not news to him. After OSG, I call him directly like, hey, this is what I have a fucking problem with. So he hears it first. So I'm not telling secrets or talking behind his back. He's not gonna find anything new here. But what I was frustrated with is how that I never like to answer, well, the judge said so. If I have videotape showing down to the 100th of a second, showing you that standard, remember what your judge said, but your judge still says it's not good, then what is your standard? Because I can't win. Like, you have set me up for failure, and you've set other athletes up for failure. If you gave me X, Y, and Z is why it didn't count, and it did meet X, Y, and Z, then what is it? So, that was when I heard the judge said so, it's done. I was like, that pisses me off.
Yeah.
That would be a problem.
Because that
I
is...
went stones with that in my brain and then smash stones. So
you got to do it
twice in a row.
With the bags, though, here's the official policy, at least on this half of World's Strongest Opinions, is that if it's on the bar, you need to provide people with a pole, and if they can push the bag over the bar with the pole that you provide, that should be considered a good rep. I had that at a comp, and it was the best.
That's actually really good.
Of like, yeah, because
you're gonna hate me, Nick. You're gonna hate me for this, but I think it just needs to go over the fucking bar.
No. Okay.
But I mean, the rules are. I mean, if they say that in the rules, right? That's one thing.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean,
so if you watch the video to give you the full picture, my bag went up and it landed, and the board, then flicked it off.
Yeah.
Nope.
So like
that's the thing that does suck about bags and not having the right kind of bars.
It has to be like super
because they are soft and it. I don't know. That's why you should fill them with rubber that rubber shit that Rogue sells, because then they get packed and round and they do not sag, right? Because when you put sand in them, they sag, and that's what happens. You can solve that problem by putting
I agree,
that ground up rubber
filler, because they will not sit up there if they're full.
No,
that's true.
There's no way they will.
Either fill your bags or get one of our $150 poles that you can just push.
And that's actually really not that expensive, man. I think it's like $30, and you can like fill,
or
at least 5 bags full of it, and then I put lead shot in mine. Like I fill them full of rubber and then weight them down with lead shot.
Or you make a rounded top, and it's way less likely to have a shelf.
There you go.
There's so many good ideas there.
But it was just whether the bag count or not, I don't really care, especially at this point. It was just a matter of how I was told. It's what the judge said, and that is not okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like we can no longer have the judge as God mentality. Like judges are human. They need to be treated as human. They make mistakes. There's no reason I should have had a tied yoke time at 2022 or what years was 2022 OSG.
Yeah.
You're telling me I tied perfectly with someone on a yoke time. The whole purpose for a timed carry is to avoid split times and sharing points,
right?
Especially in a final.
Well, that kind of gets back to like John said earlier. I mean, maybe OSG is not the right example for using this, but it's not a very expensive option to use track and field laser timers. Like you can get them for less than $1,000 for multiple.
I think
lanes,
Lynn's
man.
considering it because that would have solved 2 big headaches for him.
Yeah.
As far as
we should be there. We should be there. World's Strongest Man, Arnold, SCL, all those bigger organizations should definitely be there. OSG probably has the means to probably should be there as well. But I agree with on the judging side, because not only like what you had said, but they're not even officially trained or certified. There's no standardization in judging even, right?
Yeah.
They just show up. They just show up and like everybody's like, I've never been to a show where all the judges are on the same page.
Wait till you see Pro Strongman League.
I've heard good things about that, because
I know Tyler and I, like, we're so much on the same page with so many of these topics. It's awesome.
Well,
I'm really excited. Yeah, we've never had him on the show.
Yeah, no, we've never had Tyler on the show yet. Tyler Purdue.
Oh, he'll come on, dude.
Yeah, he should.
I'm really excited. I'm really hopeful. I'm really busy.
There's a really great inside joke here.
Yeah, we'll tell you.
We'll tell you after.
Which I realized usually Darren would be the one who's it's been over an hour. I have to go.
I like talking to Nick, so
before
we probably need to
say, I know most people won't watch this far. I have a chip on my shoulder against OSG. I do not. I think they're doing a lot of good things that are promoting the sport.
Yeah.
I think them having the SBD World Strongest Man title for all the weight divisions is a great fucking thing. I believe this past year was the first year where they were actually Lynn was actually in the positive for his own money he put into it versus got back. So they are doing a lot of good things. There's a lot of problem solving going on, because it's only getting bigger. There's only more pressure. So let me say that. I think everything they did with the hurricane standard, the adjustment and times of the events, I think they absolutely fucking crushed. We just got to do better judging. That's it.
That's true. That's the whole message of this one. Also,
that's the whole message of World's Strongest Opinions.
That's true. That's
like our foundation.
Have good standards.
Yeah. We built the whole show
Yeah.
on.
That's true.
That was literally our first episode.
Yeah,
So if I offended anyone, well, then you probably have to do better.
that's true.
If you're offended, take note of the name of this podcast, and then rethink why you're actually
Then
offended.
you get a little warning label underneath the opinion, red and white, like warning. Like,
That's why I actually put the topic that says objectively correct, just to mess with people. Be like, they're objectively
May
correct
cause
opinions.
seizures.
I'm like, they're just opinions. But yeah,
it's funny
been-
I'm on here because I'm wrong about shit all the fucking time.
I know that's the best though. It's
My
like,
wife always asks me jokingly, "What do you know?" And I'm like, "We've covered this a million times. I know absolutely fucking nothing."
Here's a soundbite for you to clip on, put on Instagram.
Sure.
At some point in the show, I was probably, definitely, absolutely talking out of my ass and was totally wrong about it.
Thank you for the promo clip for tomorrow. I'll put it up as a collab post about 8 p.m. your time. I'll have a little collab post if you have your phone. Otherwise, it'll just disappear into the ether.
You have my email, right?
Oh, I do have your email.
Okay, so check in with me tomorrow evening because what I'm gonna do is like almost 10 here. What I'm probably gonna go do is run to Walmart and see if I can find a wireless charger because it's not charging,
Oh yeah.
and see if that works to at least get me through to when I get my new phone.
Yeah.
To at least have me like not in the Stone Age,
I
even though I look like it.
know that beard is magnificent. I was like, especially when you take the hat off, that's like a peak look right there.
Yes.
You look like like
Dude.
there's a character in Sweet Tooth that you look like on Netflix. Have you seen that show?
Is that good?
Yeah, it's a good show. At least the first season. Second season is kind of like neither here nor there. But there's a character who looks
Does
like
this
every
beard
show
go
on
all the way
Netflix.
down?
Yeah.
We have so many good clips at the last bit. Like people will be like, that's how we know our true fans, is they'll like know these sound bites at the very end. And I'm like, okay, so you watch the whole thing. Because sometimes people like mention something, like they're like, you didn't clarify this person's name. I'm like, we did if you watched 5 minutes longer than you did.
We're getting better at
That's
pronouncing
true.
people's names.
Yeah, Luke Davis. Like it's
Luke
coming
Davis.
more and more natural
I'm
after.
so proud of myself for pronouncing it totally by
Oh,
accident
man.
properly.
That's
Like it just
true.
came out right, and I was just like, yes.
So Luke Davies is actually pronounced Luke Davis.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's actually one of the.
Yes.
It's a new.
He's
it's one
British.
of our
He's-
new
he's
things.
wrong.
No, he's from. It's the British who
Welsh.
said it's that. The British mispronounced it and said it's Davies. The Welsh
It's the
people.
Queen's English, bruv.
But yeah, do you have any closing words though before we tell you some
No.
awesome stories? Off air?
I appreciate you allowing me to join the honorable Twofer Club. Do you have anybody
That's
who's been
true.
on more than two?
I'm trying to think. We have-
Andrew Clayton has been on 3 times.
Oh yeah, Andrew Clayton is the king. We
Yeah.
do.
That makes sense. He's very opinionated.
That's true.
Yeah.
He is, and also, yeah.
He has a lot to say, which makes our job really easy.
Oh yeah, no, it's like it's hard when guests don't talk very much. Which it'll be interesting
Yeah.
if we ever get to talk to Tyler Purdue because he's somewhat of a quiet guy.
Closing statements. None of this is personal. I mean, Magnus for Mag, he's a terrible judge. But
Great
none of
star.
this
He
is
was a great
personal.
strongman, dude.
Great strongman.
He's not terrible
Shit
at
judge.
everything. I've heard that he's a
Um,
really, really personable individual.
Oh, he's so nice.
Also, yeah, I've never met him in person, but I've heard
Magnus?
yeah,
Yeah, very
heard-
nice. Very nice
yeah, I've
dude.
heard he's a
But
great human
he's
being.
a shit judge. Like,
Yep.
That's true.
like I like to think I'm nice, but I'm not great at tying my shoes.
Yeah,
you
I break a sweat every time I tie my
have
shoes.
to like breathe and brace to go down.
I do have to embrace when I go to tie my shoes.
I just roll on my back.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's the way to do it. But yeah, that's the
Do
message.
do child's pose.
That's a message of the show, though. It's just opinions.
Nah,
And it's all about the judges. Never target the athletes for shit.
Dude,
like,
yeah.
it's all
Yeah,
about
like, I
judging.
don't-
Yeah,
have
fuck
any
those
of those-
judges.
I don't have
Fuck
any
the
will
judges.
against
Fuck
athletes
judges.
and break world records or break my world record. Like, I want to see it happen. I want to see the sport progress, but I don't want it to be a shit show. And then because I can tell you, at least for me, when I see that standard fall, like it makes me not want to even do it. And
Yeah.
the thing that caused the upset was I was on Laz's YouTube channel, and I said, "Well, if that's going to be the standard, I have no interest in taking it back because,
I honestly think too, man, that if that is the standard, how do we expect to attract a legitimate audience to a fucking clown show, man? When you have sports like Olympic weightlifting that is very strict and beautifully executed, right? You've got powerlifting even. I mean, those guys are locking their deadlifts out. Like you said, knees are locked, hips are forward, shoulders are back. And then we've got, I mean, CrossFit is maybe an outlier in some regards, but I mean, even their weightlifting is nice. It's locked out. Like they're not getting easy down calls. And why strongmen think that we're special, that we get to, get away with bad calls, man. It doesn't do any justice to the sport. It doesn't make it a sport. It takes away from the concept of sport.
The fact that we're even have to have an argument about this or a conversation, like in something that is a competition that is performance based. Like if you say just mind your business, or you just because you didn't like the rep, or like whatever, like the fact that that's even a conversation means like that's an issue. Because this is a competition based on performance, and bodybuilding is based on perception.
Correct.
It's judge to judge. Strongman, something that is based on number of reps or putting up a weight or not putting up a weight, you're judging, especially when it's one lift on a world record that you did it better than anyone else in the world. It has to be fucking good.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like, stop settling. Stop. It is what it is. And, I had a switch flipper. I'm like, I'm in this. Like, I'm when the dude said, you have a platform, I hate to see you using it like this, I'm like, this is how I should have been using it.
Yeah.
Because I've been getting frustrated. It's happened to me. And I have one of the bigger platforms as far as weight class strongmen go. So therefore, why would I not set the next guys up with something better than I had? And you know what? I'm not going to be a competitor forever. I'm going to compete as long as I can and as long as I have that fire. Yeah. But I still want to be a part of strongman. I'm still going to train strongman because it's fun. And you know what? I want to use my creative brain, my strategy. Judging's fun because you have a first row seat to see your homies do some cool shit.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to be involved. So, like, if you're ate the fuck up, I ain't going nowhere.
Yeah.
No, amen to that, man. Dude, there's no better way to like. John's got something to say. I'm gonna say
there actually is
no better way to end the show with that.
There's a slight way though. If you don't care about rules and all those things, Mark Rosenberg, Deadliest Lift, who you shouted out with his insane deficit lifts, the Snap City Open starts May 20th to June 20th. Check out his page. It's the official ego lifting league of sport. The rules don't matter. There's going to be a push event. There's a pull event. You have to be creative. Don't take it too seriously. Do something that wows people, and you'll probably get some shirts out of it. But yeah, Snap
what
City
is it called?
And carry extra insurance.
The Snap City Open. Yeah. If you check out his page, Mark is one of the nicest people, and he's super smart. Like, he's an actual scientist. Like, it's wild. But yeah, that's what he's saying is it's measured based on effort, load, and creativity. Effort is important. Load is decently important. Creativity.
Great. So the dude that's salty about his world record not being credible for taking my world record can go do that.
That's true.
No guarantee that they will have as loose of standards though as strongman.
They are pretty tight. You do have to actually nail the lift. But that's okay. That's the note.
You have to lock it out. That's where something might
have to lock it out.
Lock it out. Lock it out in the episode correctly.
Support us on Patreon or Anchor, and find us on Instagram or Facebook.